Good day, everyone. We are now discussing the recent developments in Schedule 3 to the Companies Act 2013. All of us know that Schedule 3 is a disclosure requirement. Today we are going to present on the amendment to Schedule 3. You can look into the presentation in 5 specific subsegments. One is the overview, impact on P&L, impact on balance sheet, impact on SOSI, little change in SOSI also there, impacting preparers and auditors, because CARO already was changed. Couple of things were changed in CARO. But then, Schedule 3 was not changed. It will help the auditors and how, of course, whether you have presented on Schedule 3 or not. Auditor's role does not, restrict to that. That I shall discuss at the end. The preparer and auditor, what is their role and purpose of each and every such amendment. Broadly in P&L, you can talk that it is going to impact undisclosed income and CSR aspect. These things I shall detail out. In the balance sheet, what is going to affect it? Share capital, short-term borrowing, state payable, other current liabilities, lease liabilities, all these items are going to be impacted. And on the presentation angle, not in the accounting angle, mind it. Accounting concept is not going to change, only presentation style. Assets, it is going to impact property, plant and equipment, intangible assets, capital work in progress, intangible assets under development, long-term loans and advances, other current assets, and trade receivables. And in balance sheet disclosure, end use of the fund, which is quite, for quite some time, there is a demand that the end use of funds should be monitored by the auditor. By disclosure requirement, what was not been possible to check otherwise by the lender, by disclosure requirement, how they are going, it will be useful. It is to be seen. Willful defaulter disclosure means whether the company is willful defaulter, and self-declaration, I have been declared as willful declarer. Identifying ultimate beneficiary. This is the requirement of the Money Laundering Act and the FEMA. In the annual report disclosure on that. Compliance with the layering requirement, not more than 2 layers, leaving 100% subsidiary. Scheme of arrangement disclosure, whether you are acting in accordance with the scheme of arrangement. Relationship with the startup companies and details of the Benami property. These are the more or less our point of discussion. And if you broadly look into the overview part, it's impact the shareholding pattern disclosure, improving the terminology in certain aspects, significant changes the disclosure requirement of PPP, intangible assets, giving aging schedule for capital work in progress and intangible assets under development, and aging schedule for the trade receivables and the trade payables. These are in fact the requirement there. Now, loans to related parties, RPT is a point of concern every time. So now they wanted to detail out the RPT in a structured manner and detailing out immovable property not in the name of the companies. Earlier by footnote to the schedule of the assets below, it was written out of these properties are not in the name of the company. That also they have structured. And Benami properties, I have already talked. End use of fund, compliance with number of layers, disclosure of the financial ratios is a new thing. Registration of the charges. And registration of the charges, if you not create the charge, then what is happening? The borrower will be suffering. At the interest of the borrower's registration of the charge to be completed. And the compliance with the approved scheme of arrangements and improving CSR disclosure. These are the broad overview. Cryptocurrency nowadays coming, India will be having its own cryptocurrency relating to this I shall touch upon. And so first item, overview part, if I, now go through, first item, the very insignificant, although earlier we were making rounding off based on the turnover. Now the term turnover has been replaced by total income. And the maybe has been now salary. Means large figure you cannot produce, you have to round off, and round off based on the, nearest 100,000, etc. So these are the rounding off pattern. You have to follow compulsorily. That is the requirement. Here I have uploaded ACC statement of profit and loss, for example. They are saying total income, you can see. But we were saying total revenue or something like that. So now the word, because with the revenue you are adding other income, it is no longer remaining revenue, it becomes total income. So it's a, the terminological error earlier we are following. So it is our requirement now, total revenue. Now total revenue is replaced by total income. And rounding of rule is also gone from the turnover to total income. So if you have, more than 100 crore, so total income, so you have to follow like that. Another, minor changes which they made regarding that is for the Section 80 companies, those who are not-for-profit companies, they wanted to add clarities here. After sale of services, they added grants. See the example of Tata Trust, Tata Education and Development Trust, how they are disclosing. They are disclosing donations and earmark grants. So these parts they have observed, ministry has observed that how not-for-profit company present their income statement. Donations and earmark grants, they are primary purpose. Therefore, this thing for clarity they have included. It is not for profit-making companies. This is primarily for the Section 8 companies. This is another minor change has taken place. Quickly saying that, I would come to undisclosed income because this is the major issue. Here the requirement is asking that the company shall provide details of any transaction not recorded in the books of account that has been surrendered as per the income tax, the surrender rule or any such surrender rule come under any scheme, any unrecorded income if you are going to surrender. Now suppose there is a significant difference happening which is called material difference under IndAS 8. IndAS 8 will be applicable, which Schedule 3 is not telling. I am going to disclose, but what will happen to main accounting record? Because when I am going to disclose that, it can be material omission or material misstatement as per IndAS 8. And that will be treated as prior period error or omissions from or misstatements in the entity's financial statements. And accordingly, immediately it will attract IS 8 and a restatement of accounts will be required. So it's not simply relates. Earlier I was not disclosing, but although I am not disclosing, it compelled me to restate the accounts. But now I am disclosing and not restating, that will not be possible. So therefore, earlier also restatement was required, now also restatement will be required. Now when I am making disclosure, more so that I am, compelled to restate the accounts. Another thing is the corporate social responsibility expenses. Now there is a CSR rule. It can be, leading to something what is called, the disclosure overload. Intention of this disclosure appears that as soon as it is coming to Schedule 3, earlier it was under corporate governance, and I am giving there some disclosure about under CSR rule, and now under CSR rule giving disclosure and bringing to accounts disclosure means the auditor has to check each and every aspects of these expenses. So now what they are saying, amount required to spend, amount expenditure incurred, shortfall for the year, reason for shortfall, nature of the CSR activities, etc. So when I am going to disclose all these things, this means auditing requirement is coming into picture. Earlier, the CSR rule was asking me to provide these details. In the next slides, you can see there is a table by which I was going to disclose. Now this entire disclosure from the Board of Directors report coming to the section Schedule 3. So therefore, when I am shifting this disclosure, you are not omitting from the Board of Directors disclosure, because Board of Directors will be definitely trying to say that I have done, so much CSR activities. Because that is not going to be omitted from the Board of Directors. It is going to be added again in the Schedule 3. So what was remained as the Board of Directors voluntary disclosure or CSR rule disclosure, more than they disclose about the CSR rule, which has been coming into picture. Whatever CSR rule does not require, still they disclose more than that. But now it is coming compulsorily disclosure under Schedule 3, and it will be subject to detailed audit. So auditors' roles and responsibility relating to CSR is increasing because of this requirement of CSR expenditure. That's the issue. So now, if I go back quickly to the leaving the CSR part, cryptocurrency part. Cryptocurrency part, the Schedule 3 is talking today profit and loss transactions involving schedule. I have to disclose, and this profit and loss will definitely coming to other income or other expenses if it is a loss. But what is the relating assets and liabilities? Everything money I might not have received. So there can be, fair value. So that fair value gain and fair value loss on the cryptocurrency transactions, their separate, accounting, guidance should come, because the cryptocurrency will be leading to disclosure is not relating to simply profit and loss. There can be fair value gain and fair value loss of the unrealized cryptocurrency transactions. Now, statement of changes in equity, there is a change. Earlier we are presenting like this, it is Hindustan Unilever. We are presenting like this, equity share capital changes during the year. Now, what they brought in here, they nicely brought in changes in equity share capital due to prior period errors. Now, here one issue remains. Even they are presuming that under equity share capital, there will be prior period errors. Calculation error may be there in equity share capital. Omissions or misstatement there, which is although quite unlikely, but they have presumed that even in disclosing equity share capital, you might have committed mistake. Otherwise, it's not possible. But what is the major thing in the other equity? Other equity we are presenting like this. This is also Hindustan Unilever. This was our format. Now, what is their issue? We are presenting capital reserve, capital redemption reserve, securities premium, employee stock option, general reserve, retained earnings, other reserves. Remeasurement of defined benefit, debt instrument through OCI, cash flow hedge reserve total. We are presenting, and in the vertically we are disclosing dividend, profit, other comprehensive income we are disclosing. Now, what they did not like and what they like, Infosys also I have given, you can go through. Infosys was also similarly presenting securities premium, retained earnings, capital reserve, general reserve, share application outstanding money, special zone, other reserves, etc. And in the other comprehensive income, they were disclosing equity through OCI, debt through OCI, cash flow hedge reserve. Now, what they are bringing, this is their bringing. Share application money pending allotment. Here they are bringing under the other equity. Earlier, in revised Schedule 6, it was their share application money pending allotment. So where I should present? So they brought before reserve and surplus. Equity component of the financial instruments. That is as per IndAS 32, that when there is a convertible debenture, it should be segregated between equity and debt. So when hybrid instrument I am segregating, equity component, where should I present? So they gave better clarity here. As per, IS 32, they have given better clarity. Now, reserves and surplus, capital reserve, securities premium, other reserve, retained earnings, debt instrument through other comprehensive income, equity instrument through other comprehensive income. Here, actually, the heading is missing. They've forgotten to include the heading that the other comprehensive income. So, but okay, that can be typing mistake. In the notification it came. After reserve and surplus, it should be read as other comprehensive income. Now, total instrument through other comprehensive income, equity instrument through other comprehensive income, effective portion of the cash flow hedge, revaluation surplus, exchange difference in case of consolidated financial statement, and other. And money received against share warrants, that is also they brought in the right hand side. It could have been easily in the left hand side. Here, after share application, money pending allotment, equity component, and it could have been here, but they put here to create a confusion. This could have been easily shifted to this side. But what in the vertically they are asking that at the balance at the beginning of the period, changes in accounting policies, prior period errors, they are bringing here prior period errors. But changes causing in any of these items because of the prior period errors, restated balance thereafter will be coming. Because if I make the opening balance sheet adjustment, reserve and surplus will be changed or any other items will be changing. So they made it clear that the restated balance should be changed. Now it will be coming total comprehensive income. They are giving dividend, transfer to retained earning, any other changes. So now balance will be coming at the end. Now total comprehensive income during the accounting period they are giving. But earlier what we were doing, we were showing profit separately and other comprehensive income separately. But now no problem. We can write here total comprehensive income, profit part we can write in the reserve and surplus in appropriate column, and other comprehensive part we can segregate in same line, we can do that. But they have, total aggregated the total comprehensive income, and then you have to in total equity, you have to segregate that part. So one line they made, a single line presentation they asked here, rather than the multiple line within the SOSI. So it's a one-line classification. It's possible to do one-line classification. One important, as a part of the constructive criticism, I can say, the remeasurement of defined benefit plans, the defined benefit plans, when I go for the actuarial gain or loss, every company, I have inspected thousands of companies, every company, they have this item. So which item is recurring, although material or not material, it is a recurring item because gratuity, pension or anything else, definitely you will be having this item in other comprehensive income, if not anything else. So these items would have been, should find a place here, but because, I don't know, they have ignored this item, it will be coming under other comprehensive income. Because this item is almost everywhere, in every company in India, in case of 90% companies in India, this item is there. Now I am coming to the, after SOSI, now it is the time we can look into balance sheet issues. Now, when I am looking into balance sheet issues, first thing, improvement in the terminology, what they have done, and they have done correctly, tangible assets, if you look. If you look tangible assets, here I marked it, they are now correctly naming to property, plant and equipment, because the only tangible assets, the property, plant and equipment, capital work in progress, tangible assets, that it is named as capital work in progress. So therefore, there is no need to giving a heading like tangible assets to match with the accounting standard. IndAS 16, they have correctly titled as property, plant and equipment. Justification I am giving you, so it should come like this now. Now, share capital. It is again another problem. There is a corporate governance disclosure. In corporate governance disclosure, there is a shareholding pattern disclosure. Here they are asking, within the share capital note, you have to give the promoter's disclosure, promoter's shareholding disclosure by name. Purpose, what they are asking, why they are asking the promoter's name should be given, it has definitely no purpose, unnecessarily disclosure overload, because promoter's disclosure is already there in the corporate governance code, and more than 5% disclosure is there. Promoter means, here section 269 of the Companies Act defined who are the promoters. And you are well aware of that, whose name is in the prospectus, etc. Now, for each class of shares, I have given a separate disclosure, but look into existing disclosures now. Reliance Industries existing disclosures in the annual report is as a part of the corporate governance report. As a part of the corporate governance report, what Reliance Industries is doing, they are saying the promoter group, Indian and foreign is 0, Indian 52%. Now, they are thinking that the corporate governance report is only asking you can get out by saying Indian promoter, you are not providing the details. But details will be coming here. For example, when I am asking details of shareholding more than 5% shares in the company, Now, even if whether he's a promoter or non-promoter, here I am giving a 5% disclosure. Now, what I can do here, details of the shareholders holding more than 5% shares in the company other than promoters. For example, this is SEC's disclosure. They are saying Ambuja Cement Limited, the holding company, they are holding these many shares, which is 50%. They are naming it here, more than 5% disclosure part. But now you cannot retain both more than 5%. Also, you cannot add a promoter's disclosure. It's a disclosure overload. So a 5% part they forgot to correct. This 5% part they forgot to correct. Details of the shareholders holding more than 5% shares in the company, within bracket it will come other than promoters. That they have not corrected. They included the promoter shareholdings part. So disclosure overload. And I think later on, they might, when it will be pointed out to them, they must be correcting that 5% shareholding disclosure is already there. And here they are asking complete promoters disclosure in one place and more than 5% shareholding disclosures for people other than promoters. Structured disclosure will be coming definitely, but length of the disclosure will be increasing. Whether people there may be analyzed who will be interested to know the name of the promoters. Okay. Now, short-term borrowings, the important change in the short-term borrowing is that the current maturities of long-term borrowing. Earlier, we are saying the long-term borrowing, those which are more than 12 months, and current borrowing, which are 12 months or less. Accordingly, we are classifying. But when long-term borrowings are matured, means 12 months left, that time they become short-term borrowing. This we are not thinking. Our earlier thinking was there, long-term borrowing is long-term borrowing, short-term borrowing is short-term borrowing. When long-term borrowings remaining maturity become 12 months or less, they do not become short-term borrowing, they become long-term borrowing, only 12 months pending. That's why earlier it was classified under other current liabilities, not under short-term borrowing. But now what they want this current maturities of the long-term borrowings should be inserted into short-term borrowings so that you can get a complete picture of the borrowing. This was the idea there. Earlier we are presenting here, if you see pre-amendment position of the Schedule 3, here current maturity of long-term debt was there. But now this A will be deleted from here, it will be shifted to short-term borrowing. So that is the requirement. Here you see Tata Steel's presentation I am showing you. Here is the current maturities of long-term borrowing. You could see this. This item now, they are asking to shift to short-term borrowings. So it will consolidate the borrowing part. Borrowing will be remaining within the borrowing. Borrowing will be shifting from long-term to short-term when there will be less 12 months or less maturity will be left in. So it will not go to other liabilities and it will not miss the eyes of the reader. So reader will get a consolidated view of the borrowings. That is the purpose of this change. Now, new FA clause has been inserted in trade payables disclosure. Here now you see they are making a aging. Earlier aging was not there. Now less than 1 year, 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years, more than 3 years. But then what? I make this disclosure for MSME and other trade payables and disputed trade payables. If any undisputed trade payable remaining not paid more than 3 years, then what? They did not make a relevant changes in the CARO that it should attract the auditor. Auditor should bring to the notice of the people that the company is not paying money. That company can be having financial difficulty or some other reason why they are not paying if it is not disputed and it is more than 3 years. So related, they left here to the knowledge of the reader or knowledge of the management, whether this should be reported in the board of directors report, whether director should clarify this, or whether it should be reported by CARO, the company is not paying to the trade payables. What will be the consequence of this aging schedule? That they have not touched upon. They talked about the disclosure, but impact of the disclosure or its consequences of the disclosure, that they are not talked about. And now, for example, Tata Steel was disclosing like this. Here they are saying total outstanding to MSME, dues, and others. We are disclosing like this. Now, if I make this aging schedule and I find that a huge amount, I'm pretty sure Tata Steel does not have such amount due, but for the sake of argument, I'm saying, if I find the material amount is due for more than 3 years, this means what should I be interpreting about this? And then director must be answerable for that. And to the extent auditors should include in the CARO, then CARO should be changed for that. Company is not paying to its trade payable. But definitely it is an intelligent inclusion that it will disclose the company's paying habit, and bankers, those who will be giving loan to the company, they will be able to also understand what is the paying behavior of the company. Intangible assets, on the other hand, reconciliation, they made a change, which I marked here. You can see reconciliation, they made a change. Now we are showing the tangible assets by classes. Here problem, there is only one problem I can, envisage. That they are saying if it is a 10% or more in aggregate, the changes coming during the year of the net carrying amount due to acquisition through business combination, changes because of the revaluations or other adjustment, because of the depreciation, amortization, if more than 10% changes come in the carrying amount, you should disclose. Now, this disclosure format, right now we are disclosing like this. You see Tata Steel again, land, building, plant and machinery, furniture, fixtures, vehicles, railway sidings. These are my classes of assets. And I am saying additions, disposals, classified as held, other impairment, accumulated depreciation, disclosure, etc. You can see this is our presentation style. Here what they are asking, because if the asset increases, any class of asset increases by more than 10%, you have to add here, you cannot say addition. You have to say the causes of the addition, that is the business combination is the cause, because more than 10% is changing. People should understand addition is arising because of the business combinations, or addition is arising because of the revaluation. So here they are asking these additions should be further clarified, so that people understand what for more than 10% changes has come. Now you can see my net carrying amount here in this asset class, my building, for example. Now net carrying amount is coming 5253. Here it was 6373. So then if there is a more than 10% change, in that case, you have to clarify why this change has come. Addition is coming from where? Addition, if it is coming from purchase, I do not need to clarify. But if the addition is coming from business combination or from devaluation or for any other adjustments, I have to clarify. Here I have to add more column. Revaluation more than 10%. So this is the objective. So by this, people will be getting better information that why change taking place in the every classes of the assets. That is the objective of this, change. Similarly, in the intangible assets, it's same in the what are different classes of intangible assets you are doing. A similar treatment should be given. If it is by business combinations or by revaluations, you have to show the proper treatment. Now here, Infosys, you can see the classes of assets: customer related, subcontracting rights related, trade name related, goodwill is separately presented, and others. In each class of assets, if there is a more than 10% changes in the customer related intangible assets, subcontracting related, trademark related, even in software related, if there is a change, those changes you have to disclose separately, as I explained. So here now I come to the other non-current assets. So there is improvement in disclosure requirement of the property, plant and equipment and intangible assets by giving better disclosure for the additions when there is a more than 10% change. Now in the net, as a percentage of net carrying amount. Now here they included, by 1A security deposit they brought here. It is nothing great because we were already doing, because security deposit column was missing. They said other specify, it was disclosed. But now they categorically said that, and then trade payables also they have included, and with aging schedule after this item. So now here, let me explain here. I have taken data, the other non-current assets. Vodafone Idea annual report I am showing you how we disclose here. other current financial assets, deposits with body corporate and others. So this is my deposit. So I am showing here, if it is a security deposit, I shall say security deposit, right? Here another example is the Hindalco Big in Your Life. And here they have also, saying that, look, I have security deposit. You can see here, they have disclosed security deposit. So therefore, this we are already doing. There was a deficiency in Schedule 3, other current assets. They're classifying by other financial assets non-current, other financial asset current. In both the cases, whatever security deposit is there, you can see Hindalco. In both the cases, here my cursor, security deposit. In both the cases, people are at present presenting. Schedule 3 is late in catching up how people improve their presentation, although Schedule 3 so far not saying. So it is not improvement in the presentation, it is improvement in the Schedule 3. Aging schedule, again here more than 3 years, 2 to 3 years, more than 3 years, undisputed trade receivables. Undisputed trade receivables, we are making disclosures. Considered doubtful, considered good, considered undisputed, disputed. Now here, what they missed, along with the allowance, how much allowance for the bad and doubtful debt has been made, that also side by side, if it has been included here, it could have been much more understandable class-wise. Now, when you are making aging schedule, and suppose my undisputed trade receivable considered doubtful is more than 3 years. Here, as a reader, I shall be willing to know what is the provision there. If it is more than 3 years, you must be having 100% provision. And every company today, every big company today, if it is more than 12 months, they are going to make 70, 80% and somebody making 100% provision. So therefore here, what is important that not to disclose like this, important is that you show the allowance also side by side. The reader will be getting better, idea. So therefore, trade receivables, earlier pre-amended was there, secured considered good, unsecured considered good. Allowance for bad and doubtful debts had been disclosed under the relevant head separately. So we were presenting allowance for bad and doubtful debt under the each relevant head we are presenting. Now, once you are asking in this aging schedule, then I must be presenting, my interpretation is that I must be presenting allowance also along with here by virtue of this clause. Because here this clause is there, which is asking me in point number 3, allowance for bad and doubtful debts had been disclosed under the relevant head separately. So this should be read along with that table and allowance should be presented herein. Other than that, it will not having any meaning. Although they have not show the allowance, but company should show that allowance here by virtue of that requirement. That is my interpretation regarding the trade receivables. And here, loss allowance, they are showing here. You can see how much is the allowance, how much is the credit impaired. So here I am showing in the same manner I have to show in the table. Now, the siphoning of the money. In India, lots of political debate, economic debate regarding the siphoning of money. End use is not being monitored. The board of directors has responsibility through internal financial control to check the end use of the money. If the end use of the money is not satisfied, then appropriate action should be taken. Here it is a disclosure is a safeguard by which you are insisting that when the company has not used the borrowings from banks and financial institutions for specific purpose, for which it was taken at the balance sheet date, the company shall disclose the details where it has been used. But then what is the consequences of that? Its related consequence is that there must be a requirement for CARO, which I shall come. That the CARO auditor should be reporting. But then answers should be given by the board of directors in the director report. So this is the, circle will be completed. End use of the fund. Then in the property, plant and equipment, the fixed assets and non-current investment do not have value on realization in the ordinary course of business. This was our earlier requirement. In that case, property, plant and equipment as well as intangible assets, we have to see whether their realizable value is there. In fact, it is covered by the impairment standard. If realizable value is less and also value in use is less, property will be under, impairment. So impairment standard will automatically be coming. But anyway, the disclosure requirement is there. Titles of the immovable property, the another requirement is the title. If it is not in my name, below the property, plant and equipment schedule, we used to write that property in my name, not in my name. Now they are asking this full table that under the PPE and investment property, PPE retired from active use, wherever they are, ownership title is required. And if the title is not in the name, if it is the title in the name of the director or director's relative, why it is there, all those clarifications should be given. Why it is in the name of the director, why it is not in the name of the company. So it is one way, the company has to now put pressure, the schedule will put pressure on the company to have the property in its own name. It is a better disclosure for the, ensuring the ownership pattern of the title deed. And basis of revaluation, they are insisting that if the company revalue the asset, whether the valuation, by registered valuer has been done or not, that disclosure. So rather when the valuation is there, Companies Act should go back and Companies Act to make a change that the revaluation should be done by the registered valuer. So it will be violation of the Companies Act. Disclosure cannot ensure that. You have to have the strict companies law enforcement that the valuation should be done by registered valuer in case of revaluation. Now, disclosure of the promoter director's loan and the key managerial personnel, and it is, the improvement in the RPTs, the amount of loan and advance given and which is outstanding percentage to the total loans and advances. If you give, RPT is there, but it would have been better if they have said whether all, a remark column, that whether all approval has been taken, means where it is to be taken approval by the board of directors, where it is to be taken by the shareholders in AGM, whether those approval has been taken or not, another additional column could have been there. Capital work in progress, aging schedule, and aging schedule for the intangible assets under development is highly, appreciable move in the schedule 3. Why is it appreciable? Because delay in the project. Shareholders will be in dark. Shareholders means I am saying the investors community as a whole, bank, they will not be able to understand what is the time taken, what is the original time. So projects in progress, when I am giving this time, aging schedule, but whether it is to be, whether it is as per the completion schedule or not as per the completion schedule, for that capital work in progress, its completion is overdue or has exceeded its costs, for that separate disclosure. So, it is on the project management side, it will be the very important aspects. Earlier, this was missing in the capital work in progress disclosure. And same is case of intangible assets under development. We take enormous amount of time of the, the overlay and the cost overlay. Benami property, essentially, we talked much about that. Benami Property Act has been enacted. So therefore, if any property held Benami means, it is going to include even if the property of the company is in the name of the directors, for that separate disclosure we have given. Now, other than those directors, relatives, whatever disclosure we are giving, so where any proceedings have been initiated or pending against the company for holding the Benami property under the Benami Property Act, that disclosure they are asking here. So even when the property is in the name of the director, relative, that is also Benami. But here we are not talking that. It is talking whether any proceedings have been initiated or not. So that's why it is a separate disclosure. Now, borrowing from the banks and financial institution on the security of the current assets. So now inventory, receivables, etc., you are giving, the quarterly return to the bank. Here they are asking that quarterly return to the bank should be reconciled with the stock of the current assets in the company's book. And that reconciliation responsibility now coming in through the Schedule 3. And its related disclosure should be in the CARO by the auditors. And automatically, the managing board of directors report should include this. Willful defaulter, now bank will declare as per the RBI rule that who are the willful defaulter. If I am as a company, the reporting company is the willful defaulter. If I make willful default, that disclosure should come. Essentially, it should be coming again. CARO will not be sufficient. Auditor can say, okay, the company is a willful defaulter. But directors' clarification should be there why they have been clarified as declared as a willful defaulter by the bank. So that will be details of default you give, you make a disclosure, but these disclosures should be linked with the board of directors report. Directors report rule should be changed. Relationship with the startup companies, it has, enormous significance. If I made investment there in a startup companies, as per recent report, 209,032 companies stock up from the register of the companies. Do I have any investment in that company? Do I have any receivables with the company? I did not pay the company whose name has to be stuck up from the register of the company. So it is a major, significant impact that sometimes we do not pay. The company got defaulted, then its name got stuck off. Many such, the bankruptcy has taken place. We did not pay, the company gone to bankruptcy. So both sides, my asset and liability side to be checked into, and I have to give clarification how much is my financial impact of this with the startup company. Not only startup companies, my financial impact with the company under bankruptcy or company with the NCLT should have been added here. They are only talked about the startup companies, but what is about the company under IBC code? Registration of charge, I have already told you, satisfaction of the charge to be looked into very carefully. And then, companies, number of layers, that reporting is there. We have already the requirement. This rule has also been established under section 2, clause 87, layers has been defined. And then companies restriction of number of layers rule 2017 is there. And now there is no reporting. So we have to have reporting. 3-4 layers should not be allowed. So some cross-checking should be there. You have needed declarations. Ratios, you calculate the ratios, I calculate the ratios. Many US companies giving now common size statement. Because so many numbers people are not willing to read, they want a common size statement. Side by side, many companies giving, although not required by the law, people are giving common size statement. These ratios many companies put in their website. But you have to explain what is in the numerator, what is in the denominator. What you have used as a numerator, they have not standardized. Subsequently, standardization will also come, what should be included in the current asset, what should not be included in the debt equity ratio. Many companies define in a many different manner. So all those clarifications should be given. What is in your numerator, what is in your denominator. So people are asking to provide investors even the ratios. People should not go to moneycontrol.com and check what is the ratio of the company. People can look into making balance sheet more useful to the investors. Today, ET, market, moneycontrol.com, they are providing the information. So let company give the information. It will be first hand from the horse's mouth. And whether you have complied with the approved arrangement scheme, if there is any deviation from the arrangement scheme, that is to be seen. I have written an article recently in the Taxmann.com, you will be seeing goodwill bubble. All company paying enormous amount of money. That should be looked into. Instead of whether I complied with the scheme of arrangement. Okay, compliance with the scheme of arrangement is very important. Every company paying hefty goodwill in buying merger and acquisition. And thereafter that goodwill is causing a problem. So people are not looking into yet the goodwill aspects. Recently in the UK, Carillion has failed. Carillion is the construction giant, has failed. And huge goodwill. The 2/3 of the balance sheet is goodwill. And we know what happened to give loan based on the goodwill in case of Kingfisher. So scheme of arrangement is okay. Whether I am complying with the scheme of arrangement or not. But what is about in the scheme of arrangement, I am giving a huge goodwill. Who will check that? Now, utilization of the borrowed fund and share premium, whether proper utilization is there. Sometimes we also misuse share premium account. It is anti-money laundering and anti-FEMA, action. The company should disclose date and amount of the fund advanced or loan, through intermediaries, conduit. You are making investment in foreign countries. In between, there is a conduit. Whether that money is getting actually invested or not. So those kind of activities they wanted to catch. So therefore, investment via intermediaries, that disclosure they are asking. Where you are not making direct investment, you are making investment via intermediaries. So now, audit and auditors, I have 3 slides more. Yes. This become applicable for 21-22. It is applicable from 1st April 2021. All the changes to be incorporated means for the next balance sheet, which will be published on 31st March 2022, or for the companies those who publish financial statements in September or December, for that then also it is applicable, because this schedule is becoming effective from 1st April 2021. Means it has already been ineffective, it has been gazetted. So therefore, so about the applicability, charge question I am answering. Let me complete the CARO part. The CARO part, regarding the audit and auditors, earlier we have A and B. Now C and D recently has been introduced in CARO 2022. That is also talking that immovable property, what is not in the name of the company other than those who have a lease agreement. Lease agreement we are presenting separately now. Schedule 3 has been changed. They are saying in all financial liabilities include lease liabilities. I am showing as per the leasing standard, IndAS 116, I am including that. Now property revaluation part, they have already told that whether it has been done by the registered valuer or not. So CARO has been, order has been given. But my point is that you are putting the load on the auditor. Why don't you put the load on the board of directors report? Then let them explain that whether registered valuer has been used or not used. So that also should be part and parcel of the improvement of the director's report rule should be there. Now here, second part is that in the consolidated financial statement, whether the proceedings have been initiated or pending against the company for holding any Benami property. So it was in the CARO already. Now they brought to Schedule 3. It will help the auditor. Both the requirement of the CARO, which was in 3.1C and D, and as well as here in 3E, here what will be the helpful to the auditor? Company is already disclosing. So, but auditor's responsibility not necessarily restricted to Schedule 3, but still it will help them. Earlier there was no responsibility on the company, it is responsible to the auditor. How auditor will search in? Auditor will be asking the company prepare a schedule. So essentially, when you are preparing a schedule for the auditor, you can prepare for the Schedule 3 also. And now, as I was trying to say you, the CARO also, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, said that auditor's responsibility is not limited to the disclosures. And CARO requirement is also regarding the willful, default, whether the company declared willful default, whether the term loans were applied for the purpose for which loans were obtained, if not the amount was diverted. So whether fund raised by short-term basis has been utilized for any long-term purposes, whether the company has taken any funds from any entity or person on account to meet the obligations of its subsidiaries, those disclosure requirements are already in the auditor's CARO. Now these disclosures are being matched with the Schedule 3 disclosures. This is one of the objectives of the Schedule 3. And going concern uncertainty, there is one important thing. On the basis of the financial ratios, aging, and expected dates of realization of the financial assets and financial liabilities, other information, auditors knowledge the board of directors and management plan, whether the auditor opinion, no material uncertainty exists. Now they are asking, link your financial ratios, link the aging schedule, check the asset liability management. Do you think the company will be able to survive? So in UK for a long time, going concern uncertainty is there. In our audit standard also, there is a going concern uncertainty standard is there. But now a specific requirement, the 3.119 is there, by which CARO, they are asking this. Now financial ratio you link, age schedule you link, whether the company will be able to meet the liability in the next 12 months, you have to now give this prognosis. And CSR audit, I have already told you, now it is part of the, I have already at the beginning I told you. slides 16 and 17 is covering that auditor responsibility now look into entire CSR activities. And that's it. Thank you very much for attending. And I have getting the questions. And this one question about the 2021, I have already told you. The company has repaid loan. They are, here it is not accounting problem. It is the problem of the MCA. At the appropriate way, you have to communicate with the MCA. Accounting cannot give any solution for this. It is a company law problem. Company law implementation problem. There should be disclosure given. The company has this question whenever I did earlier physical program, many physical program, this question often came in the company law program that the registration of the charges, I have satisfied the charges. Satisfaction of the charge taken place, I have taken the clearance. There I believe you have to give a declaration in that the MCA is showing it, but loan has been repaid and satisfaction of the charge has taken place. That is my response to the question relating to the charges. And then I can see that the previous year figure, you have to work out the previous year figure. The comparative must be prepared. You are not getting 1 year more time to have a trial for the comparatives. So previous year's comparative you have to work out. And essentially previous year figure comparative you have to work out. Current year essentially figure they have not exempted yet, that you don't have to, for this new disclosure you don't have to give the previous year figure. That kind of exemption is not given in the Schedule 3. And yeah, Section 88, 188 compliance is there in case of undisclosed income. Now, related party transactions, RPT is there, or anyway, it is, in general, undisclosed income. Whether it is relating to RPT disclosures, earlier I was telling you the RPT disclosure relating to loans and advances, that disclosure which I mentioned you earlier. RPT disclosure was normally they said about the loans and advances, RPT wise you discuss and give the percentage. So I have given RPT wise and I have given the percentage calculation. Now here what you are saying, undisclosed income leads to RPT. That covers in the RPT disclosure also, it comes in the undisclosed income also. But what point I emphasized, please note that, I emphasize that undisclosed income, if it is material, undisclosed income, when I have given income tax disclosure under a scheme, surrendered. Many, surrender scheme come, I have taken advantage of that surrender scheme and I have disclosed my income. But there is a material income I disclosed. It is going to impact my income statement of the previous year or previous year. So as per the IndAS and IFRS, here you have to restate your accounts. That restatement change has been also given option now in the statement of changes in equity, how you have to adjust the restatement. So here accounting is essentially related to you restate the accounts, present the restatement changes. If it goes to multiple years, if it goes to only previous year, you restate the figures of the previous year. I don't have any other question. An unspent amount of CSR, you have to send to the CSR fund. There is a specified account now, unspent fund, you have to transfer. A specific query is that the company's FY ended March 21, they intend to hold AGM by May. Whether they can still hold the unspent fund and transfer it to September 30, I don't know. Because there is a time limit by which it is not linked to the AGM holding. It's not linked to when your AGM is taking place. It's linked to when your financial year is ending and within which you have to transfer to the specified account. It is not to the date. Even if I get, or time for conducting the AGM, it's linked to the specified period within which you have to send to the specified account. And it should impact director's report as well as the auditor's report if it is not specified within the specified period, if you do not transfer to the CSR account. But now, all that I wanted to say, the purpose of Schedule 3 is that the auditor has to audit the CSR. Earlier, when I did on CSR, many people, they said, CSR is voluntary, we shall not do it. But today, company are doing CSR and they are spending money. And the Ernst & Young has made a survey and a huge amount has been spent on that. So now, little unspent money at the year end is causing the problem. For that specified account we transfer. So physical money we have to hold in a particular account. And I think there is no other questions, Mr. Rachit, and time is also there.
Yes, sir. We have answered all queries, sir.
All queries I have answered.
Yes, sir.
Now we can call it a day.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all participants. And in case you have any other questions, and before I, call it, the webinar ends.
Sir, there's a question from Sanjay Bharti.
Please send me in the WhatsApp.
Yes.
Because I am not able to hear your voice. No. This CWIP which has already been capitalized, it does not relate to that. It not at all relate to that. Because CWIP, which the project is in progress, which has already been capitalized, date of capitalization has been decided because, there is a formality within the company that this is the date finalized for the capitalization. So when the date of capitalization has been decided and the CWIP amount has been distributed to various PPE and intangible assets, when it has been done already, it is not related to, it is no longer CWIP. But problem will be coming, as you have earlier questioned, that previous year. So during the previous year, CWIP has been, capitalized. Now, when I am preparing the comparatives, that year it was CWIP. So therefore, for the comparative purposes, the capitalized CWIP data will be required.
Sir, we are taking this last question. After the post this, we can close the webinar.
Unfortunately, Rachit, I am not able to hear a single sentence of yours. There is a problem. You are also facing problem, so you have to type it. Yeah, tell me, what is the last question? I believe last question is relating to director's remuneration. Answer is in affirmative. Yes. You have to give on. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for taking out your time and giving us the insightful knowledge on the Schedule 3 and its amendment. I am sure this will be very helpful for the auditors and company secretaries who are preparing their books of accounts. Again, thank you, sir.